You know, I'd like this number to be bigger. Okay, so we all would like it bigger.
So wait. So in $100
You make $4.
every year?
Yes, almost. You make a little bit more, and we'll talk about that compound interest in
Right,
just a second. Let's slow it down a little bit.
Because then you're.
It is fantastic, the concept. It's what made America the greatest country in the world, because you can make money with what?
Money. Out of doing nothing.
If you were 150,
Until
300
things go
years
down.
ago, you were out on a farm,
Then it goes
and the
up.
only way you can make money on the farm is do more digging or chopping or I don't know what you did.
And the farmers only get paid twice a year.
And this is the world that you're in that says, for the first time in human history, you can make money with money. Now, the people who knew that 5,000 years ago were money lenders, right? And then you want to borrow money? I'll lend you some money and I'll make money from you borrowing money. It is this concept that's going to make you retire and have the kind of money you want. The concept. In fact, I'm going to be suggesting at the end of the day that you actually do that. And whether you make 28 cents or $2, it's irrelevant. And let me just stay on that point for a second. How much training do you do to do the job you do?
Constant.
Do a lot of training?
Constant.
Every day.
Every day. Why do you have to practice? I don't understand. Why can't I come in and do? I can. What? You got a brush? Can
Because things change.
I? Things change, and you gotta practice.
Yeah.
So, if you don't have a lot of money now, what can you do now to learn all the kind of things we're doing? You do it by practicing. So, whether or not you make 20 cents or $2, it doesn't make any difference. We're trying to get into the right behaviors,
Right.
and that's what we're trying to talk about.
Right.
So, okay. So, one other general quick comment. Time flies. The reason it's so hard today for finances, among other things, is because 60 years ago, the people that working didn't have to have a class like this at all. Why? Because they worked for a company that had a retirement program, they had a pension. You go to work, and you argue that how much money's in the pension, you say that's mañana, and then one of these days you get a pension, you get Social Security, and that's the end of it. All of a sudden, companies like Studebaker, remember Studebaker?
Yeah.
They went bankrupt.
Hard.
They went bankrupt because it was easy for these companies and states and local governments to say, you know, we won't give you a pay raise, but we're going to put more in your retirement fund. Because from the company's perspective, that's tomorrow. CEO will die by the time they have to pay that money. And so every company, a lot of these companies took out responsibilities for payments in the future that they couldn't afford. So all of a sudden, the companies woke up to that. IBM was one of the first to stop, quote, pensions and start 401k. By the way, you know where that name came from? 401k. It was a paragraph in a congressional document hidden way down, number 401, paragraph K. So one statement that says, you know, people can contribute to some money and they don't have to pay taxes. And it revolutionized everything. So all of a sudden, you could start doing it yourself. But guess what happened in terms of education about economics from the day that line was created to today? Not much. In fact, let me tell you something. I learned. After I came home last Thursday, on Friday I found out that last month was Financial Literacy Month.
Oh my gosh, we missed it.
That's what I said. Oh my God. What in the hell is Financial Literacy Month? Well, Congress knew this was a big problem, I don't know how many years ago, and declared, what is it, April, tax time, of course, Financial Literacy Month. Whoop-de-doo. And so everybody was to teach what we're teaching and behavior and, you know, scream and yell about credit card. But guess what they found out over time? It didn't work. So I'm here to tell you that everything I'm saying to you doesn't work. That's weird.
Yeah, that is.
Well, if you can do your hair, I can say what I'm saying doesn't work. It's not sufficient. And what they did, what they found out, and these are by the way technical companies that said this because they did the study, it's not sufficient, it's not wrong, but it's not sufficient for two reasons. A, in order to really make gains in this, you need one-on-one work with somebody who's doesn't have a vested interest in what you do. Call your financial counselor who works for Chaim Bublik and Chaim. You don't know how he gets paid.
Out of your own money.
Huh? You don't know what incentives he has to sell you things. You don't know if it's this fun. I got involved with one of these things when I wasn't sure what to do. And he came to my house, the financial counselor said, this is what you ought to do, buy this mutual fund. I went online and found out that that company that I was dealing with had a financial interest in that mutual fund. So they weren't looking for my benefit,
He
they were
was
looking
telling you
for...
what he,
Right.
yeah, his own.
I called up the president and said there's a conflict of interest. Boy, you say those words to a financial person and they,
Oh, yeah.
oh my God, we're so sorry, you want your money back, you know. Okay, so two things are critical in addition to this, according to this article. A, you need somebody to talk to who doesn't have a vested interest and make money in what you're doing. And the second thing is the technical tools to help us are terrible. I'll give you an example. You have a checkbook, you have money in the bank, right? It doesn't take a lot of intelligence for a computer to know that you pay the rent on the 5th of the month.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't take a lot of intelligence to know that you pay $1,614. Well, if you're ready to use your debit card and you're going to go below that number, what should the software, the systems tell you?
Alert you.
We haven't even scratched the surface of that.
Right.
So here you are, all alone, you have no education, everything I'm saying isn't sufficient, like here's how you multiply and here's all you, and you could leave here saying, oh, I still don't know what the hell to do. Okay, but it's getting better. Intelligence portfolio from Schwab.
Right.
Boy, I'm going to be talking about Schwab a lot. So you can put your money, and Schwab is fantastic. They're leading the way in all this stuff. You can give all your money to Schwab. You can say to them, here's the philosophy I want to put my money into, and don't charge me a penny. And that's what they do. And
How
Schwab
do
isn't
they
the only
make their
one that
money,
does
by
this. Others do it. So
How do they make their money?
they make their money because part of their money they keep, part of your money they keep in cash.
Okay.
And they invest your cash along
Just like a
with
bank.
and make more money in their investment than the money they pay you. It's the
Okay.
difference in cash. But from my point of view and your point of view, who cares?
Right.
Okay. So it's getting better, but it's going to take a long time. That's why we have to have classes like this, because the education about this is awful. And and they've tried this in high schools and colleges, and guess how effective it is.
Zero. Well, because they can't put it into practice in high school.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's an academic, let me tell you what a stock is and what a bond
Right.
is. Yeah. Okay. All right. 50% of the families in this country have zero emergency funds.
I think that's a low number.
Could be. Yeah.
It's
More
more like
like, think about that. And they gotta go to work and have flat tires. 25% of families making $55,000 to $90,000 a year.
Where are you?
20, I'm reading my notes.
We don't have
I
that.
can't tell you, I mean,
You can't
you
give
wouldn't
us
need me
that?
if no, these are my notes. I didn't have to. They have less than 3 months of savings. 25% of the families in our country who make about $80,000 a year have 3 months of savings. Why do you think that is?
Life.
Hmm?
They have less than 3 months, or they have 3 months? I give them a lot
3
of
months or
credit.
less.
Yeah, well, because of life, whether you have emergency or whatever.
Can you
Pe-
explain
people,
life?
well, people just live paycheck to paycheck.
Why?
People have spending problem.
Financially
What?
literate.
Say again?
Spending.
Yeah. Good, and we talked about this a little bit last week, right? You know how much you make,
Right.
W-2s and taxes and stuff like that. And if you spend about what you make, what's the number, the amount of National Football League players who go bankrupt within 5 years of retirement is like 85%.
Wow.
How much do they make a year? $2 million, $3 million, $5 million. The amount of money you make is irrelevant.
Right.
The thing that's relevant is the difference between how much you make and how much you spend. And if you make $3 a year and you spend $1, you'll be a millionaire, you know? If you make it $4 million and spend $5, you'll go bankrupt. So, yeah, okay. All right, so why do we save? Long term, what are I have 3 reasons here. What do you think long-term savings is about? Retirement is one.
Investment.
Emergency.
No, we'll put that aside, long-term.
Okay.
Investment.
No, that's how you do it.
Oh.
Now, that's why you do it. Build a house, right? If you want to buy a house, right, and you don't have a down payment, what would you do? Save money for the long term for the down payment, and if you're 22 years old and you think, I'm going to do it when I'm 30, it's a long-term investment, okay? And if you have kids or nephews or yourself who want to go to college and, my God, you look ahead at how much it's going to cost you in debt, you say, okay, so we have a series of things, some have 1, some have none, some have 3, that you want to save for the long term. The other category we talked about is we said the word emergency, but I'd rather like to use the term money that exceeds your monthly budget. That is reasons that you have an expense that exceeds your typical monthly budget. What could that be? It could be 1,000 things, right?
Right.
Roof leaks.
Yeah.
Took your car in for repair, and the guy said, you know, you need all 4 new tires, but I give you the deal. Here's 3. I'll give you the 4th for free, and you end up with $500. And this doesn't work, and that doesn't work. So there's a whole bunch of reasons you need money, because the normal going to Starbucks and eating out and eating dinner in, and it's bigger than all that stuff. Okay, we're going to talk about probably the most significant economic thing now. It's called compound interest. And let me walk you through it. Got a pencil?
Yep.
Okay, if you had $1,000 in a savings account at 5% interest, how much money would you have at the end of the year?
I have extra tissue.
Thank you. How much would you have?
Okay, you have $1,000.
5% interest.
You'd have $50.
So how much money would you have at the end of the year?
1,000.
Okay. Everybody with me on that one?
Yeah.
$50? Yes, $1,50, right? Okay. If you invested all that money the next year, how much would you have? You go to the bank and say, hey, keep the 1,000, I'll do it again. How much money would you-
1,050.
No.
Huh?
Repeat that again?
Sure,
So
well,
what
you go
would
to
you
the
have
bank, you have
next?
1,050 in the bank, right?
Uh-huh.
1050. You go to the bank and the banker says, you know, why don't you just leave the money in and 5% against. How much would you have at the end of the year?
110250.
You see what the question is?
52?
You go to the bank
50 cents.
at the end of the year and say, I got 1,050 in the bank, keep it another year. You then go in the second year, how much money would you have in the bank?
110250.
No, you went again. You went the
Oh,
following year.
compound. Third year?
Yeah.
No, second year.
Second.
You have 110250.
Right,
What happened? Why did you make,
Because you made it on
because you had
$50.
more money
Right.
you made money on the
on the interest.
$50.
More money, more money, more money.
Sear that concept into your head.
Compound.
It's the compounding that will get you rich. And don't worry about, it's only another $2.50. Don't fall into that trap, but no big deal. Weinstein's talking about $2. It is the concept that'll get you rich. Because what happens the third year, and the fourth year, and the fifth year, and all of a sudden, you're making money not on the original $1,000, but on what?
Interest.
The interest that you've earned over time. Time, and you've heard it a million times, start saving early. Why? Because of
Compound interest.
compound interest. Let's take a look on page 8. Okay. If, at the bottom of page 8, if you had simple interest, that's the amount of money you would make each year. Straight line, right? Okay, pretty simple. For simple interest, that is, if you made $50 each year, you make 50, 50, 50, 50, 50. Okay.
That's simple.
Look at the top of page 9, excuse me.
Compound.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it. That's why everybody says start saving, save as much as you can, save early. Because look what happens in the first 4 years. Nothing.
Right.
You look at your statement and say, oh, what are you talking about? It's
Got ripped off.
$2.50, $3.08. But what happens over time?
Just double and triple.
It doubles and triples, and exactly right. And so it says $10,000 investment. I'm reading the top of page 9. 20-year investment, 7% compounded interest, which is kind of high. You've earned how much interest?
29.
$29,000.
Because it's hot.
So the straight line is 24,000. The big line is 39,000. It goes like, and guess what happens to that curve? It goes like that. So when you
That's if the
I'm
stock
sorry,
is going.
huh?
That is the stock.
No,
if the
forget,
market-
no, this is math. No, we'll get to that.
No market, okay.
Doesn't make any difference. Because if it was stocks, the straight line would go down. So let's not confuse how to do it yet. Compound interest, there's a saying, if you read books about this stuff, Einstein's greatest theory is?
Relativity.
No. Compound interest.
Okay.
He said the greatest invention ever created is compound interest because of what you see in the top of page 9. Okay, let's take a look at a few more examples. Bottom of page 9. If your goal was to have $50,000 at age 45, got it? $50,000. If you started at age 20, right? You put $60 a month in, you'll have $50,000 at age 45. And you would have contributed $18,000 because of,
Compound.
you go home tonight and go like this. Just keep doing that.
I'm gonna put everything in.
And your spouse will say, what are you doing? Oh, it's a long story.
I'm saving money.
Don't eat.
Exactly. If you started 10 years later at age 30,
Right.
10 years later, still with the same goal, you'd have to put in $155 a month. And you would have contributed $27,900 for the same
We need new
$50,000.
numbers over here in the start.
And look what happens if you start at age 35.
Okay.
Yeah. We're a
Okay.
group
How
here
many,
to start.
there's a lot of ways to say the same thing.
Right.
Start early. Okay, all right.
It's too late to start early.
What's that? What's that?
So it's too late to start early.
Oh, you know, it's your mother's fault.
No,
If she had had you earlier in,
no, I mean, the thing is that you're talking to a
Start.
lot of people that aren't
when
gonna
do you
start.
want to
at
start?
20. Now. No, not really. No, they wanna
Never
start
too
now.
late to
It's
start.
never
It's
too late.
never too late.
And it's never too late to make, like change your behavior.
Exactly,
So, I mean, there's
exactly,
even,
So still,
exactly.
We're going up.
And especially when you have a great vehicle to do it in,
Exactly.
which is.
See, you start now when you're
You
little
live
kids
the,
are.
the average age is 90 years old, take your age, subtract from 90, what do you get, 50, 40, I don't know. You're at the high end.
Morning.
Okay.
Especially if you have little kids.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like a little
you
kid.
start this.
Do you want a butter check?
No, I'm just, I talk to myself a lot.
Okay.
Okay, now, let's take a look at page 7. And we'll go back a little bit. And so where do you put your cash? What do you do with your money? Okay, I'm suggesting
My wallet.
that you can think of it as 3 things. One is cash. Let's use our words for the next couple of weeks. What does cash mean? Cash means money you need, you're going to Starbucks or you
My
Tip.
friend said buy gold and stock it
Okay,
away.
Rachel, you
Gold
can
is
sit
not an
down and learn
investment.
about money.
Chris buys
Gold-
gold all the time.
My client will like,
All right, hold it, hold
But he
it.
also thinks he has to prepare for the apocalypse, so he has gold in our house. I'm like, for real, Chris?
All right, hold it, let's, hold it. We
I can't.
only got about 15 minutes.
Not the apocalypse.
Okay, gold is not an investment, it's a, my God, the world's gonna fall apart. That's not, you won't find that kind of concept in my book.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about cash, where do you put your cash to earn money?
In the bank.
In a bank, in a savings account. And how much will you earn?
Not a whole lot.
Probably 0.03%.
Yeah, I think
You
that's
do the
right.
math, you'll get 28 cents if you have $1 million in there. I don't know. Not much. But you don't want it, you just want convenience of having it, no big deal.
Why doesn't the bank get, if you have a savings account, why don't they have?
That's not a savings account, it's called cash. I'm using the
Right.
Okay.
second
So
category is savings account. Look
Okay.
at top of page 7.
Very good.
Okay? Now, when we use the term savings account, the money you should think about putting in there is money you'll need in the next 3 years. The 3 years is a critical number. I didn't make it up. It's not my lucky number. Okay.
What do you mean money you need in 3 years?
Well, good question. If I had a kid who's going to go to college and he's a sophomore, junior, in high school, I need it in 3 years. I want my money in this category because we'll talk
You
about it.
pull it out.
Because the stuff, huh?
You can take it out at that time.
We're going to put it in to a place that's relatively safe. Because we know we need it for the down payment, for the house, we need it for a college education, or the most critical thing you can need it for is retirement. If you're going to retire in 3 years, right? You put 3 years of the cash, and we'll talk about that for sure, of the 3 years of the cash you need in this pot of money. And we're going to talk about the next category because the amount of where you should put the rest is in stocks and bonds. But it goes up and down and up and down and up and down. And in general, it'll recover in 3 years. So, if you have all your money and you retire and you don't need, and you're ready to retire but you don't need your money for 3 years and it goes down, who cares? Because if it's going to go back up in 3 years, who cares? Okay. So the 3 years is critical. So if you're saving for a house and you think you're going to buy within the next 3 years, this is where you should put your money, in this category. Where do you put it?
That's to earn the 3% that we talked.
I don't talk about, I'm talking about where to put
Right,
it.
so this is where
To
you put it.
change it, when Carter was president, the interest rates were 15%. They go up and down and up and down and up and down. In the early 30 years ago, it was like 1% or less. Monies go up and down, interest rates go up and down. I'm worried about interest rates. I'm worried about where you put your money. Okay, so, category 1, where do you put your cash? Put it on the mattress, give it to the bank, you earn nothing. But it's safe, okay? Where do you put this category of money?
The 3-year money?
Yes, certificates of deposit or treasury bills. You buy a CD, certificate of deposit, 100% guaranteed. You go to a bank and say, I want to buy a 3-year CD, a 1-year CD. Today, it's like 2.4%. Okay. And when Carter was president, it was 15%. When Reagan was president, it was 1%. Who cares? It goes up and down, up and down. So, it gives you more than the savings account.
Right.
In fact, I'm gonna give you a homework assignment.
Okay.
To buy a treasury bill.
What is that?
I'll show you in just a second. I'm teasing you a little bit. Okay, I'll show you how to do it.
Okay.
And you know, why does the Treasury want your money? Well, the debt that this country has is what, a
Crazy.
gazillion billion dollars, right?
Yeah.
How do they get the money?
Borrowing from
Okay.
people.
And who they borrowed from?
Us.
Me. And you're about, if you go through this thing, to invest $100 minimum. And you will earn at least 84 cents, maybe 85. Because it's for 4 weeks. Do I care? No. I want you to practice, practice, practice.
But you pay federal tax on the interest?
You pay federal tax, but not state tax.
So they're getting you 2 times. Not only are they using your money, but they're also gonna tax you on using your money.
You can put it in a mattress
On the
and earn nothing.
Right.
You earn the delta.
Is that on the certificate?
But you can go to the third category, which is a bit riskier, but we're not there yet.
All right.
But your point is well taken.
So that's just safer, the treasury bill.
100%.
Okay.
Well, you would hope.
No, we don't have to
It is.
hope. If
It
it's
is.
not safe, then we all,
Right.
nothing means anything.
Then we're
The
with
least thing to
Chris
worry
and the,
about is this
Oh,
class.
yeah.
You're-
Well, it's safer than what though?
Say that again?
It's safer than what?
Then like buying stocks.
Stocks.
Okay.
It's guaranteed 100%, just like the certificate of deposit. You go to Sandy Spring Bank, right down the street, and say, I want to buy a certificate of deposit. You give them some money, you get an interest rate of something 2.5%. It's 100% guaranteed up to $200,000 by FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance. So is a treasury bill. I mean, okay. Which is why you will buy a treasury bill, and you know how much they will sell that day? About $4 billion worth. You're in with all the big girls and guys that are buying these things, and China, but it's so simple. 15 minutes? I couldn't believe it. It's true. Okay, so that's what you do with money you need.
Field trip.
Instead of the
Where do you go to buy it?
I'll show it to you.
Okay,
Get there. There's a website named in here.
Oh, I have
So,
one in my purse I have to scratch.
so, money you need within the next 3 years, you do not want in the stock market, right?
Yeah.
Don't want under your mattress, you don't want in the bank sort of sitting there doing nothing. You buy a treasury bill or you buy a CD. Now, what do you do with the third time, which is called investments? This is where you want to get into stocks and bonds. So if you're 27 years old and you're retired at 65, this is where you want your money. Now, we'll go up and we'll go down for sure. But over the last 100 years, it's gone up about 4 or 5% over time. Some years are good, some years are not so good, but it goes that way over time. Okay.
So they said like, that would be like a short term, like the savings, right? And the other one is the longer term, the investment.
Well, it's 3 year. I'm
In the
not
month.
using the term long-term, short-term. Cash you need month to month, right? Money that you need within the next 3 years, you put into savings account. Things you're saving up longer, you're going to be buying stocks and bonds, and for the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking about how to do that. Okay? So there are the 3 categories, right? Okay. I would encourage you to have, and I've done this with other people, with Schwab. If you don't have, the IRA that you have here, the retirement account, should not be the only investment account that you earn. Should not be. You should have an investment account that you put money in after you already get paid, right? So you get paid, they take out the taxes, you have money, you should be putting money away in a Schwab account, okay? I say Schwab, you can do Fidelity, and there's other places, but Schwab is so good, it's the leader of these days. Why am I saying that? Well, when you get time to retire, And if you put money in a retirement account, every time you withdraw that money from your retirement account, you have to pay taxes on it.